Hello everyone, it's Barbara Ann here, and thank you for joining us once again on our midweek reflections, as we call them. And thank you to the worship team of East and Old who have been taking each week in turn, and there have been some great reflections in there that I have very much enjoyed listening to. I would say though that my worship team really know me well, don't they? I was really surprised at some of their comments and nice surprised, but they really know me well. So today I thought I would talk to you about my love of reading. I love to read. So I love to read. I read lots and lots of books. But when I compare it to Billy, well, I think Billy's read one book in his adult life. And that was all about Alex Ferguson, because that's his hero. So, one book, not very much. However, I did also read that book, and I found it very interesting indeed. So, I love reading. Years ago, it was, of course, books, wasn't it? You would have to take books with you. And I remember years ago going on holiday, and I think I took 8 or 9 books with me. I couldn't do that now, could I, with the luggage allowance that you get? So aren't we glad that the Kindle came about? Books versus Kindle, I must admit I still like holding a book. But for going on holiday, and well, I think most of you know I've got shaky hands. Well, a book can sometimes make that a little bit worse, especially if it's a big book. So they've both got their pros and their cons. I would say though that because I read the majority of my books on the Kindle, I sometimes forget what the book's called or who the author is, because I'm not constantly picking up and looking at the actual book. But that's by the wayside. I never read in bed. I'm always sitting up when reading my book. I tend to read on holiday. Probably more so travelling up and down to Glasgow to watch my grandson. Well, when Billy's driving. Not when I'm driving, but when Billy's driving. So I can read going up and down the road there. I sometimes read it just to relax, just to take a little time out. I certainly read books when Billy is watching football, because I really don't like football. I don't mind the men running about and play acting, because I think that's what they do. However, it's all the noise that goes with it. No, not my favourite thing. And in 2013, our church started its book club. And it's been really, really good, because we have read a huge amount of books in that time. And some of them I have really, really liked, and some of them have been nothing short of awful. It's just amazing, isn't it? So I thought I would tell you some of my favourites. My absolute all-time favourite since 2013 is The Kashmir Shawl. And everybody in the book club really, really liked that book. It was a huge hit with all of us. Another one I really liked was Perfume. And I think I was the only one that liked it in the book club. Nobody else seemed to like it, but I thought it was brilliant. And then our friends in Zuglo Church in Budapest, well, friends, Mishi. Mishi recommended to our book club a couple of books to read. One of them was called 5 People You Meet in Heaven, and the other one was called The Paul Street Boys. I really enjoyed the 5 People You Meet in Heaven, so much so I then bought the follow-up book to that. So really, really good. And The Paul Street Boys, well, that was all about a period in time in Hungary. And it translated really well into English because it was a Hungarian book. So thank you, Mishi, because I know Mishi watches our midweek reflections. So thank you for recommending both of these books, which the book club did enjoy. I think Mishi did say that the Paul Street Boys was in the school curriculum in Hungary. I could be wrong, but I'm sure he did say that. Just a couple of other ones that I liked were Daughter of the Dragon, New York, that was a brilliant book. Defending Jacob, fantastic twist at the end. Dancer Off Her Feet. Now, that is a book of someone who has a great deal of faith. That was an excellent book. They were all fab, they really were. However, I'm going to mention 3 books to you at this time. You'll get the link immediately when I mention them. So the first one I'm going to mention is Life After Life. Our book club read that quite a number of years ago. And when I say they read it, I'm not too sure if anybody actually finished it. The book, to people in the book club, was awful. It really was. We just could not get to grips with it. So that got voted down. Nobody would ever recommend that book. The next one we read a little while after that was The Girl on the Train. Yeah, one person in the book club liked it. Everybody else disliked it. They really did not like that book. But one person, well, they gave it 7 out of 10. So maybe they didn't like it too much. But it was awful as well. We really didn't like that one. And later on, we read the book This Is Going to Hurt. Not one person in the group liked the book. They didn't like the way the person who wrote it was going on and on and on about their life in the NHS. But for me, I just think, you don't go in to become a doctor without realising it's going to be excruciating. It's hard work, long hours. So, yeah, I'm sure they must have known what they were getting into. Because let's be honest, as ministers, we know that when we go into the ministry, it's not a 9-to-5 job. Anything but. Now, the reason I mentioned these 3 in particular, and I'm sure you've picked up what the connection is to it, is the fact that all of these 3 books have either been made into films, a TV series, or plays, or one of them, all 3. We're stumped as to know why. We really, really are. We're absolutely stumped to know why. But aren't we glad that everyone has got different tastes? That's what it's all about. There must have been millions of people loved these books, just not Eastendale Book Club. And that brings me on to one of the biggest books I know, and the most well-known book in the world, and it's the Bible. There are lots of different versions of the Bible, and a few weeks ago, in this reflection, Esther spoke of the fact that she likes the Good News version. In the church, we use the NIV version, and for my personal reading, I use the NRSV version of it. Really, they're all just different styles of language that's being used, and well, some of the translations are better than others, let's put it that way. We'll just leave it at that, because I could wax lyrical on the differences. I have a few favourite books in the Bible, and in the Old Testament, my favourite books are Genesis and also the book of Psalms. And then when I move to the New Testament, it's the book of John, and then also Romans. Now, I do have a few more that I could tell you about, but I thought I'll just leave it there. So do you have any favourite books in the Bible? And why is that? I'm interested to hear if you ever want to chat to me about it. However, what I love about the Bible is that the stories in the Bible are shared memories that have been passed down through the generations, from one generation to another generation. And originally, of course, they were passed down verbally and then written into the book form. And then a bunch of men, had to be men, didn't it, decided which books would then go into the Bible that we currently use. So I want to ask you a question. What memories of you and your family, and maybe of your faith life, of yesteryears, that you would like to share with some people? Have a think about that. Have you actually shared lots of these memories? And do people listen? Do people remember? When I visit families after a loved one has passed away, some people know very little about the person who has died. Maybe it could be of their mum and dad from the early years, which when they weren't around, or some siblings and they don't really remember what happened many years ago, what they did, what informed their lives, and what made them into who they are. And that's one of the joys I have as being a minister, believe it or not. It's being with people in their time of bereavement, but especially when I go to visit them and I get the person's life story, because it usually brings up such good memories and memories of happy times. It can also bring up memories of difficult times, because let's be honest, we all have good and difficult times in our lives. But normally, for a funeral, we hear all the good stories. I have started writing down some of the memories that Billy and I have of our individual lives before we met each other. And I've also started writing down memories that we have as a couple before our children were born, then when the family came along, just so that, well, I want my children to read these stories, to know who we were, what we were like before we became mum and dad. And then hopefully at our funerals, well, I really hope they'll be able to say something about us. That's the main reason for this one. But isn't it great that if we write these stories down, give them to our children, well, they may find things out about us that they never knew, and how that's impacted our lives and possibly their lives. Memories are wonderful. They really are. And I would like a memory of me to be passed down through the generations. And hopefully you will too. So you know what I'm about to ask you, don't you? You can see it coming a mile off. I hope that you will start writing down some memories of yourself, whether it be from your childhood, school age, or when you started working, where you lived, and all your hobbies and activities. Because I'm not too sure if my children will remember some of the hobbies that I did when they were younger, or even when I was much younger. They certainly won't know any of them, who my friends were and what we all did together. So I'm asking you, start writing your memories down in the hope that your memories can be shared with fellow family and friends, but also so that you are alive in the memories of others, and that is passed down through the generations, just like the stories in the Bible have been passed down to us, and all the people in the Bible are very much alive in our lives and in our memories. I wish you a wonderful week ahead. God bless everyone.